At least it was only 2 minutes.
Yeah, not an hour.
Literally. Yeah. The whole episode is lost.
We're here again, Igor.
Here we are.
He's closer than that. Come on, you know better. You all right?
I am very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm buzzing. Yeah. It's muggy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I feel like we're in Thailand in some ways, but
What
with great skies.
What would you be drinking? If you're in Thailand now, what would you?
We have to go for Mai
Thais.
Tais. Mai Tais.
Mai Tai, yeah. No, I think a Mai Tai would be.
What about you, Tony? What would you go for?
Caipirinha. I know.
Caipirinha. Strong choice.
I know it's not Thai.
Strong choice.
But you got to go in hard. Hard.
That's a man that knows his cocktails, right
definitely.
there. We're going to get on just great. But before we get into talking to Tony, Igor, what do we do? What is this?
We are a
podcast
for creatives and entrepreneurs. I know the spiel by now. And yeah, we're here to empower creatives and make them look outside the box and see how people can push their business and creativity. So,
What do people need to do, Igor?
Well, people need to like, they need to subscribe, they need to share.
Tell them into the camera.
Especially on YouTube.
Where can they find us, Igor?
AnotherIdea.co on all platforms. So yeah, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere.
That'll do. That was a good intro. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. And we've got Tony Walmsley here today.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Have I said your surname right, by the way? Walmsley,
you have?
Walmsley?
Yes, yeah.
How are you?
Couldn't be better and good to be here.
Thank you very much for coming to Derby. We really appreciate it. Before we do get into the episode, I do have a small confession to make.
Here we go, and it begins.
You weren't going to be on this podcast.
Oh.
I'm sorry to break that to you.
Oh, wow. Start like that.
That's killing a guest before we even started. So let me just give you a bit of background on that. So obviously we have a mutual friend in Dan Dolan, right?
Yes.
And you know Dan pretty well, right? So when we started this podcast, Dan said to me, he was like, "Oh, you should get my mate Tony on." And I was like, "Okay, Dan." This is Dan, who I walked in on him chatting to a bride the other day about how bad the reviews were for the Tommy Tippy milk warmer product.
He has a point, though. He always has a point.
He's always got a point.
Yeah.
Anyway, when Dan said to you, "My mate Tony needs to come on it," you kind of go, "Oh, okay, Dan, yeah, whatever, mate." And then fast forward a few weeks, and we'd started the podcast, and you just sort of randomly messaged us, just giving us some good feedback on it. And within about 2 or 3 messages of chatting to you, I'd started to realise that I should have listened to Dan and just gone, "Yeah, no, you're right, Dan. Yeah,
we should have had Tony.
And here you are. So here's Tony. So,
and thank you, Dan.
So thank you, Dan, for setting us up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very clear, very early on, that you have a very kind of good understanding of business and the creative industry. And I didn't want to go into too much of a chat with you over messages, because I was kind of like, I said to Igor, we need to get this guy in, and here you are. So
I'm super excited to have you.
So
here.
you went on the list originally. So just apologise.
I'm glad I made it on eventually.
But you made it on the list. So thanks for coming down.
No, I was going to say that
he's not walked out, Igor.
Sorry,
he's not walked out.
I
was a bit worried about what I was going to say there.
No, that's right.
We're here.
First disappoint, and then
I nearly
nearly did.
Yeah, but we brought it back.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that I'm particularly super excited about today because almost like what we did with Ben, really. Having someone in from a complete different industry that is really successful at it, and just share business tips and everything else that you do, because literally doing our research, me and Sam just doing voice notes to each other.
I've got so many questions.
So
can't wait. Yeah,
we're here for 3.5
we stay in the bar. Okay.
4 hour recording. Where do we start? Do you want to give us a bit of background, Tony? Just let the audience know where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Tony. I have a salon over in Lichfield, a big converted barn, similar to this kind of vibe actually, so lots of exposed brickwork and all that sort of stuff. So we started off with a barn conversion that was 1,000 square feet. Started with just a team of 3 and quite rapidly grew into that space, sort of employed 1 or 2 more. And then knocked into the building next door, so over doubled the size. We've got 2,000 square feet now. Wow. And we're now at 21 staff.
Wow. Okay, that's a question for later on.
It's 11 years we've had that. I was in the industry for nearly 10 years before that, so managed other people's salons and all that sort of stuff. Don't know how I got into the industry. I was just a bit of a little rebel at school. If any of my teachers heard my name and success next to it, they would have laughed you out of town. But somehow I've got there. But yeah, so somehow got into hairdressing. Fell in love with it quite quickly, the creative side, the people side more than anything. And it's just grown and grown.
Amazing. I mean, to have a salon for 11 years, I think is an incredible achievement, really. We talked off cameras before about how the volume of salons that are out there and how how many of them become successful and can be established, and what was it, like 8 out of 10 fail within the first year or two, and
that's the stat that goes around. Yeah,
really, because they're everywhere, aren't they? And they can't all be busy and successful, so there have to be some that unfortunately fall by the wayside. So to be in business for 11 years, I think is an incredible achievement. But
really
before we get into anything like that, you actually reminded me of, I was going to ask a question at the very beginning that I'm going to ask every guest. How was school for Tony?
Fun.
Yeah.
But academically, nothing really grabbed me. Looking back, I was probably just quite bored all the way through. And then boredom quite often brings a bit of restlessness and disruptive behaviour. So there was a lot of all that sort of stuff. Played lots of football. Was a bit of a class clown. I actually did okay. I was one of those annoying kids that sort of was okay getting your C's, your B's. If I'd have put a bit of work in, I could have done much better. And yeah, I enjoyed it. But at the same time, nothing grabbed me at all.
Yeah.
Did my A-levels, and then I was going to go on to uni, and just at the last minute thought, no, I'll go there, get in a lot of debt, live the lifestyle, and come out with some sort of mediocre degree, if that.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to get into hairdressing.
Yeah, because I think it's quite I'm always intrigued as to how people kind of find their way into their industry.
Yeah.
And I think for guys as well, is there still that stigma around idea that do you want to go and be a hairdresser?
Oh,
do
totally.
people look down?
Well,
I mean, I don't, because I've got friends that are hairdressers, and I'm massively inspired by what they've done. I'm just trying to think of people outside of the industry.
We still get that stigma,
maybe a bit more narrow-minded.
I think especially
approach to it.
I mean, we're talking 20 years ago now, so especially back then.
Yeah.
And like I say, I wasn't a creative at school at all. Bit of a lad, and then all of a sudden I turn around and say I'm going to be a hairdresser.
What was the spot? What made you choose?
To be honest, there was a program called The Salon on TV. Did you watch that?
I remember that one.
And basically there was a couple of blokes on there that were laddish lads, being hairdressers, very very good at it. And the girls seemed to like them. and it was quite rock and roll. It was quite. They were put on this pedestal type thing, and I thought, and I'd always loved, I suppose, the idea of image, and I had a few mates that were into music and in bands and stuff like that, and almost what the hair can do to make an image pop kind of thing, straight away give someone's image out, like whatever they want to show off to the world can happen.
Elevate
quite
someone and bring them confidence,
and that is how I am a hairdresser as well. It's totally about the person and then bringing out their personality through the hair and things, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I was sort of watching that and I thought, this looks pretty cool. And I can't really go and do any sort of fashion degree or anything. I weren't really into that type of thing. But I just thought, actually, that's something I can get into quite quickly. And I just thought, I'm going to give it a go. If I don't like it, take it as a year out, go to uni the year after. That's
just on a slight little tangent from that, that just goes to reinforce everything that's happened over the past few days, with the Lionesses winning the Euros and saying about, how, girls today, now they see that, can go on to achieve something and they can go and pursue that. For you to watch something on TV and go, hold on a second, I like what these guys are doing, I've seen it, you kind of obviously had an awareness that you could go and be that.
Yeah. Sometimes people just need permission, someone see someone and be able to actually.
It's relating. It's relating to someone, isn't it?
And
just so happens that in my industry, it's mostly female. And for me, as a 18-year-old lad, then who was very laddish, it was kind of like, who am I relating to? And then all of a sudden, there was someone doing that job. That looked cool, was doing cool things, and like I say, but was given this bit of a status, and I thought, actually, I'm an attention seeker. I'll have a bit of that.
How was the sort of transition? So from you starting out, within the industry, and then coming to literally buy your own barn with the 3 staff, that gap in between?
So, to be honest, I struggled to start off with my apprenticeship. Even now, I've had a business for 11 years, and my 2-year apprenticeship is still the hardest 2 years of my career. The graft you had to put in, it didn't come easy to me either. Like, the creative side did not come easy at all. I was lucky that I worked for a salon group, and they had a salon in the Mailbox in Birmingham, and the Mailbox had just opened. It was like the place to be. And in that salon, they just had some incredible hairdressers. Some that were quite traditional, so without sounding too hairdressy, but quite Vidal Sassoon, very structured in what they did. Everything was to the rules and everything. And then you had this new breed that was, I suppose at that time, Tony and Guy, hacking through hair, everything very visual.
Where's the purple?
Yeah. And for the first time, women shaving half their hair off, and everyone had mullets. It was that era.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. A little bit of blonde on the mullet.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be in a club, and you'd look across, and you'd just see everyone's little bit of mullet, like off the strobe light.
Yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it? I think
early 2000s, great times.
Yeah.
So I mean, some of those people were pretty savage, and you probably wouldn't get away with the way they spoke to the apprentices then. You wouldn't get away with it now, but I needed that. Like I say, I was a bit of a little tearaway. I needed someone to sort of grab me and say, right, this is how you behave in here.
To guide you through it.
This is what you do. And I was fortunate in that place where, I suppose as an apprentice, I'd sit there and there'd be 20 people cutting hair and colouring hair, all doing it very different ways. And I suppose I was looking around and thinking, right, what ways work for me? What do I agree with? What don't I agree with? Why does that person use that technique versus that person using that technique? And I suppose just grabbing little bits of all of them and putting it into my own.
Yeah.
But finished my apprenticeship and went on the shop floor, as they call it, and I was drowning, complaint after complaint. And it's because I was talking a good game, but I did not have the skills to
What
back
was
it
the
up.
worst complaint you had?
Nothing major, but it was just sort of this place was at the time the place in Birmingham to get your hair done, and it wasn't at that level.
Not hitting the mark.
And like I say, I was very good at talking the talk, but I hadn't put the work into my apprenticeship and learning the skills in my apprenticeship to make sure I was great at it. And I remember I had a meeting with the manager, and she tore me apart. And again, this proud sort of, at this point, 19-year-old, 20-year-old. And I got in my car and just cried my eyes out. And got home and thought, right, what am I going to do here? Because I'm not good enough. And I bought a few doll's heads. And as soon as they arrived, every doll's head cut at different angles, and basically started from scratch and started teaching myself again.
Yeah.
And got good at it, got really good at it.
Because you could have, probably at that point, I don't think anyone would have blamed you, but you could probably just turned your back on it.
I could have jacked in, because the money was rubbish at that point.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've friends that are in the industry, like the hairstylist apprentice wage, 15 years ago was, it was farcical, really. I don't know if it's still like that or not, but it was, we're talking like paper round kind of money.
Yeah. Well, luckily, legally now,
it's changed.
There's minimum wages and things, but I remember I had quite a few mates working in Birmingham and in sales jobs and things like that. But this salon was a goldfish bowl, big windows, and they'd walk past in their new suits and that. And basically, I was sweeping floor.
What made you stay?
I could see that there was an end goal and a little bit of what else am I going to do, really, kind of thing. And I loved it. I just didn't know how to learn it.
Yeah.
And I think in creative industries, quite often you get these amazing creatives, but they're not actually that great at teaching it. And I think that's what I'm very good at. So, I was watching these people create amazing hair, and you'd ask them why they were doing something. They actually didn't know. It was almost like a feeling to them, and they just, they were looking at it and visually thinking, right, I need to do this. I needed rules. I needed to know why I was going to be doing those things. And I suppose getting those doll's heads and just cutting away at them made me create my own rules, and then I did the same with colour and so on. So I could see there was an end goal. I just needed to get good at it, because there was aspects of it in the customer service side and things I was great at, and as an apprentice, I was a great apprentice. Got lots of tips and all the rest of it, but actually as a hairdresser at that point I wasn't good enough. But yeah, got good, and then they started asking me to educate for their brand, so I did that and started managing one of their small salons. And again, I wasn't sure if I was that good at it, and I remember I handed my notice in there to go and manage another salon group, and one of the apprentices just burst out crying and was just like, "Oh, you're the first person that's ever believed in me, and
wow.
I've learned so much." And I thought, hang on a minute, this is what it's all about, kind of thing. Maybe I am good at this. So went on to another salon group, was an art director for them, and helped manage one of their salons, one of their franchises. And then, to be honest, a bit of money came in from my gran, and the money was there, and the money where I wasn't great, and I can remember just thinking, what am I doing? And and started looking at units, and this place came up, and I always wanted somewhere, that sounded too cheesy, I never felt at home anywhere. Like I wasn't sort of creative and maybe trend driven enough for some of the high street salons. But then I got bored in sort of the village salons type thing, and I wanted somewhere that was trend driven but actually very client centric. And when I looked at the barn, it just made sense. It was homely and warm, and that's what we wanted from the client experience, and it just made sense. And to be honest, that
opportunity was there, and you haven't looked back since really. But before we get into that, one thing that really fascinated me when we did a bit of research on Tony and kind of came up with our questions, and you've already referenced it in the first sort of 10 minutes of this chat, is about how you don't see yourself as creative, and that I think one thing that I read on your Instagram was that you have to constantly learn to be creative. Can you just expand on how you see that, and why you kind of don't see yourself as a creative?
Well, I think I'm not stereotypically creative. So I am, at school I couldn't. Art I was terrible at. I still can't draw for toffee. My 5-year-old teaches me how to draw things. What I was into was sort of graphic design and that, again, creating structure. And to be honest, again, going back to school, I wasn't allowed to do graphics as a GCSE because the teacher didn't like me very much. So maybe I would have gone on a different path had of been able to, but so I mean, I've got people in my team who look at hair and it just comes out of them, completely comes out. They almost don't have to think about it. For me, I do like structure, I like rules, and so if a new trend comes out straight away, right, I'm thinking to myself, right, so what structure do we put in place to make sure we can do this service and make sure that all the time the outcome is perfection. So me and my art director will sit down and we'll go through some sort of different techniques, find out what works for us, what works commercially. So time wise, what can we do quick enough and to make sure we're charging.
Really sit down and think about it.
So for me it's a process. So whereas for my art director, he's the mad scientist of hair. So the two of us work really well together. So he'll try and push boundaries with the hair.
And you rein him in.
I'm there, rein him in and say, right, so what structure can we put to this? Because actually, we've got at the minute another 13 stylists that we need to make sure that can do this as well, not just that one person. I think that's where a lot of creative businesses go wrong, is they rely on the 1 or 2 or 3 at the top, and then the rest of them are actually creating quite average work. So the whole time it's for me creating a structure, because I know I struggle with it, so there's going to be other people that struggle with it too, and therefore how can we teach it in a way where most people can get it?
I think it's that exactly what you've said there is that awareness of, because you've been through that process and you understand that probably makes you a very good teacher, is because you aren't maybe naturally just like the go-to creative that can just go and do it. You've had to really work through the process and the steps and understand
But it's the thing that used to, create the most anxiety and made me think, I wasn't good enough. It really was. It was the thing that...
Because it can be quite an intimidating industry.
Oh,
there are some big personalities and characters in the world ahead.
And they tell you if your work's not good enough, and it wasn't good enough. So I did have to relearn, and it was going through that process, through that, feeling like I wasn't good enough.
Amazon delivery. Oh no, it's not. It's Amy.
That made me be able to that's what actually has made me a great leader and a great educator. So it's actually what's made me good at my job now. So there's other ways I am creative. I think I'm very good at finding creative ways of getting my point across and educating something. But in terms of the core job, I'm structured, whereas there's other people that are very creative at it and can just visually. I
think I was just going to say, you were going to say something, but it got me thinking then about, why do we not? Because I can relate to a lot of what Tony says about not being creative. I don't see myself as massively creative, but when I look at my business and what I do, I am creative. But why do I say I'm not creative, and why does Tony think he's not creative?
I think I
know.
Does
it come back to this school thing of unless you know how to masterfully throw paint on a massive canvas, you're not creative.
I think as well, and it's so refreshing to hear, the whole idea of structures, the whole idea of 1, 2, 3 equals whatever, and this is how I'm gonna get to that end result. But as well, and I see this, and I think this is a very big similarity between the two of you, is that you might not see yourself as creatives, but the sense of aesthetics, the sense of the standard that has to be met, it's really high. So when you have that sort of aesthetic and just drive really in some ways towards what you actually want to achieve as the end result, when it's that high, I think that the end result has to be beautiful, and it has to be in some ways creative, but you get there in a different way.
Tony, we are creative. We are creative. We shouldn't keep saying that. But that was the reason that's the reason why I wanted to ask everybody that comes on here about their school, because I think or what their school journey was like, because I think it's the one thing that as creatives we can all kind of relate to, and it was definitely one thing that came up in early episodes was me and you talking about our school experience. I was like, I felt like that, and I don't know. I think it's just a question that kind of brings us all together. And I think as well that
for a lot of kids, nothing's really spoke about other than going on to further education. And most of that is because that's great for the point system, whatever, for the school, and their Ofsted reports and all the rest of it. And when I'm lucky with my parents, they as long as I'm working hard at something, they would support me in anything I do. I mean, I do sometimes think when I turned around and said, because I didn't even tell them I was going for an interview, they'd seen my UCAS form and everything, so they knew I'd applied for uni and got accepted and things, and then just turned around and said, I'm going to be a hairdresser.
By the way.
And my mum and dad weren't, but they used to have a mobile hairdresser. I'd never really stepped foot in a salon. So for them, I think, I'd imagine the first thing that came into their mind was, your stereotypical corner shop little salon where nobody's doing that well financially and in their career, and they obviously feel fulfilled in what they do. But I've always wanted to dream bigger. Let's do something big with this rather than just stay.
And it has gone. It is big. You've got how many staff now?
So 20. About to employ 20. One more.
So 21 staff. You've been going 11 years. What do you attribute what are the kind of main reasons that you attribute your success over the last sort of 11 years in business towards?
So,
hey honey.
Hi. So I heard that you love Studio Ninja.
Who told you that? Where have you got that from?
Some lovely bird.
So, I mean, Studio Ninja sponsor this podcast at the moment, and I think we both said at the very beginning, before we'd even recorded the very first episode, I remember us having a conversation around, if we are going to get sponsors on board, I don't want to just get sponsors on board that just anybody. I mean, obviously it'd be great if people gave us money, but that's not what we're doing. We want to bring sponsors to the podcast that we think our audience are going to benefit from.
And especially when it's things that we use.
I use.
In this case.
We're sort of setting you up at the moment on with Studio Ninja. So I thought it'd be really good today to just talk about, for me, the 3 key features of Studio Ninja that are absolutely pivotal for me, like running an efficient business.
Yeah.
Should we fire them out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one is calendar syncing. And what I mean by this is when an inquiry comes in through the contact form on my website, which is created within Studio Ninja, as soon as a couple or a client fill out that contact form, it comes through to Studio Ninja, it populates into my calendar. So like I know magic. In my phone, I've got it already in my calendar that so-and-so's wedding is on this date, and I can see whether it's clashing with anybody or not. It's just there. I've got their names, I've got their email address, I've got their venue. It's in there. It doesn't go anywhere.
It's all populated.
So it's all populated straight off the bat. That is the very first thing that I think. So I don't have to manually input any data.
That's really good.
The second one is invoicing automation. So I used to be so bad at this. Like I used to have to like build invoices, send them, which isn't such a bad task. It's remembering to build the invoices and to send them. It's like, oh, damn it, I forgot. Yeah. And it's like, I should have sent that 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, or it's the 1st, or it's the 15th. That's usually when I send mine.
Yeah, so Studio Ninja, it takes a little bit of time at the beginning just to set up. But once you've got it set up, it's all automated. So I send an invoice if they decide to book, and the system knows that from the shoot date, 6 weeks out, it's going to send them the remaining balance invoice. And it's all in a portal, all accessible to the client at all times. They can see the BACS details in there. Nobody asks me for BACS details anymore because when they click on the invoice and say pay by BACS, it just brings up all of the data. Yeah. So everything's already in there and it's all fully automated. For international weddings, it'll send them a £700 invoice 6 months out from the wedding, and that comes off their total balance. Oh. So it's really configurable. Yeah. And once you've set it up, that's it. Job done. You never have to do it again. And then the final one, which I don't think many people that use Studio Ninja would say this is like a key feature, but for me, I think it's incredible. It's just the ability to build a questionnaire for your couples or your clients. So for me, I've filled out this questionnaire, or I've created this questionnaire that asks for their names, their Instagram handles, the times, the locations, the contact names and numbers that I might need, supplier accounts, and it just sends them that questionnaire with the final invoice. It comes through to my email account when they finish it, and it also goes through to the app on the phone.
It's really good.
So I'll print a copy out. Yeah, I'm just organised. And again, once you've gone through that setup process, it's done. Easy peasy. And they're the three main ones for me. There's a few others that we could talk about at the time, but that's it.
So how can people get them?
So you just go to Studio Ninja, and the discount code Another Idea gets them 50% off their first year's subscription.
There we go.
So you get a month free anyway, and then the discount code Another Idea gets 50% off their first annual subscription.
Go get it, Studio Ninja.
Go check it out, guys.
I think for me, it's there's almost two ways to look at it. So first of all, you've got the client experience side. So making sure we're delivering to the client every single time. Again, we do put structure to that. We do have a client journey that everyone has to work to, but then obviously put their personality within that. And then it's, I'm nothing without the team. And to be fair, there would have been, in the early years, there would have been times when I'd have been better off doing it completely on my own. Have a little unit, just me in there doing hair. But I do love seeing other people succeed and giving them avenues to grow their own careers. And I think if you can, the saying is something like, what is it? Try and build your team to be as employable as possible, but in an atmosphere where they want to stay. And that's what we try and do. So
that's pretty much one of my questions.
so we try and we invest heavily in education. My accountant has a go at me all the time about how much we invest in that. We shut the salon plenty of times a year so that we can just completely educate all day. We're constantly upskilling. But then also let's make sure we're rewarding them. Like if they're doing the things that they need to do. So the reason I left to set up my own was because I wasn't being rewarded. I was bringing in a lot of money. And
one of my questions was how do you kind of educate and grow your staff and retain them? Because there's always going to be a point where they want to go, I'm going to do this myself now, but obviously you have to.
Well, quite often it's greed that stops you from retaining your staff. And if I've got someone bringing in 6, 7, 8 grand a month, they deserve to have a big chunk of that. But as I say, what a lot of salons do and other creative businesses is rely on that person, and that person pays the rest of the wages in the team, where actually that person should be getting a big chunk of it. So I try and see almost each person in my team as a little franchise, and how do we first of all get them through their apprenticeship, and then how do we make sure that person is profitable as quickly as possible, and I'm completely transparent with that, so they know exactly what the figure is where all of a sudden they're profitable. So until they hit
the incentive, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So until they hit that, there's no bonuses or anything, because effectively we're losing money on you. But as soon as they hit that, they start getting rewarded financially in a big way. Obviously the upskilling side of it, they want to stay because of that. But also different avenues for growth. So for me, there's sort of education. So do you want to go out there and teach? Again, let's help you get out there and do that. Do you want to get into the creative side? So we do multiple photo shoots, enter awards, all that. So if you want your name in lights, we can help you with that. But also some of them just want to be a really busy, successful salon hairdresser, and that's absolutely fine too. And then we have a real transparent commission structure that they know completely, what they bring in, this is what they get, and they know exactly why they get that as well. And I think that a lot of people are a bit secretive with their figures. So someone sees that, while I'm bringing in, let's say $5,000 a month, and I'm getting paid this, where's the rest of that going? We tell them, this is where it goes into. And then I suppose for us,
it's a really big industry, isn't it? Like it employs a huge amount of people. I mean, we talked about how many salons are in Lichfield. I know from experience how many are in Derby. But for people that are listening, I mean, there might be plenty of people that are listening that already work in the industry. But for those that don't work in the industry, can you just explain like the business setup that you have? Like I know there's this kind of divide, isn't there, between kind of like a self-employed route, rent-a-chair route, and obviously you've kind of just touched on your setup there. So are people kind of freelance within your business and your brand, or
no
do you employ them?
It's a big thing in the industry at the moment. So for the first time ever this year, there's more self-employed than employed in the industry.
Okay.
Well,
for me, the main reason for that is bad employers. Simple as that. It's greed at the top. So you get, especially really successful salons, you get the salon owner that is making themselves rich, simple as, and then the rest of them are on minimum wage. So how do you cut it up so that everyone's doing well from it? And that, for me, that's the way it should be. So at the moment there is a struggle with that, because a lot of people aren't maybe educated in that finance bit, as we just said. So they'll be sitting there in the salon thinking, right, well, I'm bringing this in. If I go out on my own, I'm going to bring that in and keep it all. And obviously they're not. They've got to pay for their product. They've got to pay for the rent on that chair,
taxes,
everything. So often
plus the things you don't get. You don't get holiday pay, sick pay.
And the training side again. And photo shoots. If we spend thousands of pounds on photo shoots,
so I imagine on the face of it, if you're an employer, you could sell that quite easily.
You can. But again, I mean, the other thing, there's a lot of research in the industry at the moment, and I'd imagine it's the same in most creative industries, where the top 5 things that employees look for, number 1 is flexibility. Now, in our industry, it's always been you work every Saturday. You work 2 nights a week. You're only allowed to book 4 Saturdays off a year. So understandable, and actually, I suppose COVID gave everyone. So I know I'm not allowed to talk about COVID, but it's given. You
can brush it.
It gave everyone a bit of thinking space.
Yeah.
But more so the employee that thinking, hang on a minute, like why do I have to work every single Saturday out? And actually, if I've got, and this is the number 1 thing I want from my job now, if I can go somewhere else and just choose when I work, okay, they might be earning less, but is it more to them that they can pick and choose when they work?
It's going to be priceless to have that flexibility, really.
And at the end of the day, it's what we do as well, isn't it?
I don't think we don't live in a world now where everybody's like off Saturday and Sunday and that's it. That's the only time they can go and get their hair cut. Everyone's a lot more like, well, I'll just go on a Tuesday night, or I'll have because everyone else's work now is more flexible. There isn't that need to maybe be in the salon every Saturday. Totally.
So we've brought in we call it a flexi working rota, but effectively there's points for different hours, and you can pick and choose, and as long as your points hit a certain threshold, do what you want. And of course, you get more points for Saturday hours and evening hours, but I'm very proud of the fact that we have a lot of people with kids working for us. A lot of people in our industry, they have children, then all of a sudden leave because they think they still have to work every weekend and all that sort of stuff. So you've got to change with the times. And as an employer, you've got to think actually what people want from their job is going to continuously change, and how can you adapt your business model to make sure that you can still have those people working for you.
You said there were 5 points. So you said flexibility was the first one.
Yeah, you're going to test me now, aren't you? Here we go. Flexibility.
I am listening.
That's why
flexibility is top. Then it was like training. So what are you giving me to help me progress in my career? Next was team. So the people they're working with. Number 4 was money. And then number 5.
It's funny that you put it literally almost as fourth, really, not even as first.
Yeah, although for me, I think it's my job to make sure they know that money can be number one. Like, it annoys me that people don't get into creative industries thinking, I'm going to get into this because I want to earn some money. And especially hairdressing. And I mean, the average hairdresser is on only just above sort of the minimum wage. We have people earning so much more than that, and so it's I think for a lot of them it's because it's just, well, I'm not going to earn it anyway, so why bother having it in my top 3? Actually, you can, if you're with the right people, you can earn it. So push for it. Who doesn't want a bit more finance?
Of course. It's still a taboo subject, isn't it? We talked about, like, it's one of the most popular episodes that we've recorded so far was about money matters, and me and you having a kind of open discussion around our mindset towards money. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, I still think people don't. It's almost like this shame that you can't say,
charging you
actually,
worth.
no, I want to go and earn some good money here. And
I think especially creative industries as well. You get so enrobed in the creative process, and almost like, I'm going to do you a favour by creating this masterpiece for you. But actually, you need to be charging for that, and especially the time that goes into it. So for you guys, it's the amount of editing and everything that has to go into it. For us, it's the amount of training that has to go into making sure you're good enough to implement that, to do that. So and then obviously the time spent doing the service. So it does frustrate me with creatives not realising the potential, the financial potential.
Having that sort of like starving artist mentality, really. But one thing that I was thinking is, so 20 people, come on.
It's a lot, isn't it?
But within those 20 people, I guess there'll be different styles and different sort of skills or different sort of like voices, let's say, of the people that you have. With all of that going on, how do you sort of like keep your brand as AJS clear to your clients and to everyone that sort of like knocks at your door? Do you almost like get a brochure, or you can have this style, that style, or how?
No, but I think it's important for creatives to still feel like they're putting their creativity into it. So we have sort of certain ways of colouring hair in particular, where we look at skin tone, we look at depth of colour and things, and you've almost got a formula there to give you a range of colours that person would suit. So we teach that to all of our team, whether they come to us with 20 years experience or they're brand new, and we know that creates great hair. Now sometimes if we have someone with a lot of experience who comes in, they will test the waters a bit, and they will try and do the things that they've always done, and that they've been relatively successful at it, so why wouldn't they? And it's almost our client that tells that member of the staff, actually that's not good enough, this is what I want with my hair. And actually then when they implement the things that we've tried to teach them, all of a sudden they see, right, we get much happier clients, our retention rate goes up and all the rest of it. So we have sort of I suppose you'd call it slight boundaries that we want our team to work within, but within those boundaries you do what you want, and let your personality out. It's and you kind of see with each member of the team, you can almost pick out their clients, whether you're speaking to them on the phone and their personality, or you're seeing them and sort of visually what they look like. You can see that it's different people that have worked on them. And what you want to start off with is that your skill set and your personality brings in as big a range of people as possible. But as your career goes on, you do sort of that range sort of does that, and you find your fit and the type of client that you're going to work on all the time. So we do have some people who constantly work on just really good looking 25-year-old girls, and it's creative work, it's all the latest trends, all the rest of it. They're successful, and then we get other stylists that their client base will all be on average 50 years old, still look amazing, absolutely amazing, but their sort of how they approach their work is more relative to that client and that client base. So over time, that's what you see. But to start off with, we want them obviously to be able to retain every single client. Our retention rate's 90%, so we're doing it well. The average in the industry is 40%, I think.
Wow.
So we're doing a lot of things right, but it is. But what we need to make sure we're teaching is those boundaries that we said is what creates that. So we know if you're working in these boundaries, you're creating great hair, but work within that and be creative within that.
Yeah, it must be hard in the industry, because I imagine there's a lot of people that if you had a bad hair experience, you wouldn't actually complain. You probably just wouldn't go back, would you? I mean, I fall into that bit. My wife would be the one that would go, I'm not happy with that, I'm going to tell him. But I would be very much like, I'm not going back there again.
And you do see that, and we want our clients to tell us if we're if they're not totally happy with what we've done, and it can be upsetting. I mean, I think
you must take it very personally, like it's.
Well, I think all of us, no matter what
you care and love what you do, and you're passionate about it,
and it doesn't matter what your way of creating something is. What you're trying to do is evoke an emotion in your client, in your customer. So for you, your couples, if you're an artist, it's you want someone to look at that painting and feel a certain way. If you create music, you want someone to feel something when they're listening to it. I can see my 5-year-old boy is well into rock and roll, and put AC/DC on, like the first couple of riffs of that, like he loses it. And he's not learnt that. That's the art that they've put into that music that just comes out of him. So I'm looking in what I do is we're creating art, if you want, on someone, and actually that's a pretty emotional connection you're making there, and a lot of trust someone's putting into you.
They come in one way and they get out a completely different way.
I'll tell you a little story about what made me realise hairdressing was for me. But so I sort of didn't know where I fit into the industry. So like I said, I didn't feel I was creative enough to be winning all the awards creatively and all the rest of it. But that's sort of what I wanted. And then I had this client, and she came in, and you see she was a bit down, and basically she'd got divorced, and this weekend coming up was the first time she was going to see her ex-husband. And really nervous about it. Horrible breakup they'd had. He'd been a very nice man. And so I did the consultation, did her hair, and as I was blow drying it, so had colour cut, blow drying it off, looked at her and she had tears going down her cheeks, man. And I thought, oh shit. I hadn't been on the shop floor very long, so 6 months or so. I'd had that conversation with my manager where I didn't feel like I was good enough, all this sort of stuff. And so sort of stops. Is everything all right? And she's like, I love it. I love it so much.
I'm so glad you gave us a good ending. I didn't know where that was going. I was a bit worried for you. Were you? It
felt like a movie.
I was like, this has got to be a good ending. But
and honestly, the way she like strutted out the salon,
amazing.
And I thought actually that's totally.
That was the penny dropping moment.
That was more fulfilling than anything. And again, I want a client. And I want all of my team's clients to feel a certain way in my salon, so that's why we have the aesthetics of the salon, and we work it the way we do. But what I did during the process of what I did with that client made her feel a certain way by the end of it. And for me, I'd done photo shoots and stuff by this point. Like, it's good, it's fun, but actually,
it's not the real stuff, is it?
If you're affecting someone like that,
I think so many people listening will relate to just that process and that moment that you talked about, because I don't know, as creatives, you see it all the time. Like, nobody gets to their level of output without those hard yards and that work and that kind of that rejection and that moment of doubt and worry that you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But that's just part of the process, isn't it? You know, nobody's like at the top of their game and going, "Oh, that's how they started out." Nobody's there. But we all kind of believe that, "Oh, Tony's great at hairdressing. He's never had to struggle. Like, he's brilliant at what he does."
Well, and all that's getting worse, isn't it? Everyone thinks that, you know, they can be an expert straight away.
Yeah,
Because watch a few YouTube videos.
That's it.
And
we're constantly seeing the highlights.
But you know, I think, and to be honest, most really successful people I speak to still completely go through that. You know, every single day they've created something and they've thought, that's not quite how I wanted it to come out.
I think once you can recognise that process in yourself, that you have to make yourself uncomfortable and to accept that you need to learn and to become better.
And it's how you constantly evolve and get better and better at what you do. What
was your penny dropping moment?
The whole staff thing, and
what was your penny? Did you hear my question?
Yeah. What was your penny drop moment?
Yeah, like, did you have a penny?
In general.
As a photographer.
Okay.
I'm just kind of listening to Tony say that. Like, did you have a moment where you were like, "This is really what I want to do now"?
Yeah, and I think I've told you before as well. That was the whole.
Is it bad that I can't remember?
No. You will eventually. It was sort of like 3-day destination wedding where fashion was on point, the energy was on point. I felt really welcomed in. I felt like family, and I knew I could create art, and I created something that I was really proud of, and they were really proud of. To come out of that, I just thought, no, I want more of this.
Yeah. It's getting that feedback as well, isn't it? I think,
and it's the whole appreciation thing as well. That's crucial, really. There's so many industries out there, like, I don't know, graphic design, architecture, whatever, that sometimes you might feel like you're stuck at desk, send a few emails, the job is finished, and that's it. You don't get any sort of like appreciation for that amazing thing that you just created, really. So to get that human element of it. Well,
I think quite often you're not physically there when they receive whatever you've done for them. For me, they're there during the process, which again can be daunting. You know, they're watching you do something, or what you're doing, and you have to sort of explain. So I feel very lucky that, you know, 8 times a day when I'm with clients, I get that feeling. And to be honest, now as well, when I remember probably 4 years ago now, we'd knocked into the new space. That was all very daunting. Overheads over doubled, all the rest of it. And I walked around the salon, and there was someone in every single section, and you could see every single client had that feeling of that one client when I've, you know, first thought, like, this is for me. And you know, you walked around, and so the things that we'd taught all of the team was being implemented, and you could see every single client just over the moon with the experience. You know, the place was full of laughter, full of, you know, like I say, that energy. He thought, actually, this is what it's about. This is what you're working for.
And you wouldn't have had that if you'd have made that decision a few years before that to go, I'm just going to stay by myself and just cut my own, cut hair by myself. Make it nice and easy, not have to worry about staff. Obviously, having that volume of staff, what are the pros and cons to that?
I have to be careful, because they're probably going to listen to this.
They may listen to it. But let's talk about the good stuff first. What is it? What kind of, what does it give you as a person? Like, what kind of satisfaction do you get from seeing your stuff? I mean, I imagine it must be hugely kind of rewarding seeing that you're kind of responsible for their success. And not responsible, obviously they're responsible for it, but you've obviously had a big part of it, and you've given them the...
and they've got to fly with it. I mean, we do have people who start and leave, you know, and they can't cope with maybe the level that we expect or whatever, but for me, totally, that rewarding, fulfilling thing of other people succeeding is huge for me. We get a lot of team members. We seem to have got this little niche where we get apprentices in who have just done a degree. So they've finished a degree in something. They come to us at like 22, 23. So we have to pay them more. So they finished their degree and then decided, right, I'm going to actually follow my passion now. obviously had a word with their parents who stopped them doing it in the first place, and then seeing them go through their apprenticeship and then actually now doing a career that they love and again can be rewarded for it is such a good feeling for me. And the other thing is from a selfish point of view, they all make me better at what I do all the time. So whether that's with their hairdressing skills, whether that's them testing me in my leadership skills, and each generation that's coming through test you in a slightly different way. They all want different things, and being able to evolve myself and the business so that they can get that fulfillment in their jobs as well. Yeah,
okay, that's all the good stuff, but come on, we want to hear the bad stuff. Come on, give us the cons. If you work for Tony now's the point to turn off. Just don't listen. Come on, give us a bit of meat.
First of all, they're a good bunch, but I suppose one of the things that is hard is when you are let down. Now you might have invested.
You went for the juggler.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You sometimes you could have invested so much time, money, effort, emotion into someone, and then the first point of them, maybe coming out of their comfort zone and that kind of thing. You're pushing them, and that's my job to do that. They might leave. Sometimes you might have someone that's worked with you for 10 years, and obviously you have a stronger emotional connection then. So that can hit hard. But I'm not one to look at. I know you want the stories, Sam. But I do try and see the positive in it. So for every negative, like I said before, they're pushing me. So for every negative, actually, what I've got to think is how can I learn from this? Yeah. There's the obvious ones. We employ a lot of people in their 20s, and we all go through things in our 20s. So you have to deal with some of that.
You've been there and got the t-shirt, haven't you? Yeah.
And again, I probably was one of the worst employees that you could get. So but maybe I needed a boss to be able to call on different leadership skills to help me, instead of just a kind of approach. So I think I like those challenges. I like someone who's challenging me and my leadership and why I do things. And sometimes it actually makes you come away and think, actually, why am I doing those things? And you change from it. So there's challenges every single day. There's people will have things in their home lives going on, and quite often, to be honest, if you do see a dip in what someone's doing, quite often once you sit down and have a talk about it, there is something going on away from work. But again, it's, I need to do less and less clients so that I've got more and more time to be spending the time with them and making sure that I'm leading them properly, and it's relationship building at the end of the day. Just like parenting and friendships and all the rest of it, the time you put into that relationship, you're going to get more out of it. So it's challenging, and different people give you different challenges, but it's all learning, isn't it?
Of course it is.
And there's nothing better than you all, a group of people all striving for the same thing, and there might be slightly different things that shoot off from that people want, but actually, it's my job to try and employ people through the interview process that want the same things as we do.
I feel like I want to go and work for Tony.
Come on in.
I'm loving this conversation, and this is really making me think differently, or in some ways encouraging me about associates.
Okay.
Because I've always associates, second tutors, because I've always had this sort of like fear of bringing someone in and perhaps they're not gonna be up to par, or even disappoint the business in some ways, because it's a quite scary thing, isn't it? Having someone on and they almost like become ambassadors for your brand. But the whole idea of you setting the parameters really, really clearly. These are the parameters. These are the lines that you can. These are your boundaries, and within that you color it. I love that. I
like the way you just put that as well. I will use that myself.
Tony, I can see Tony going on pinching that.
But it's so encouraging to hear, and it just makes my mind like go, this can be done. It can be really done. It's on me to sort of like set the parameters and really specify it well.
I think it's a big mindset shift, isn't it? For a lot of us. It's about letting go of those controlling elements that when you work for yourself and you're on your own, you've got complete control.
And it's educating, isn't it? It's it's a lot of people just employ someone and just let them run, and actually most of the time they're not going to do things exactly the same way as you. Whereas actually, if you spend the time to start off with educating them, finding out what their why is, and making sure their why is similar to yours, and then helping them achieve that why. That sounding cheesy, but beautiful things can happen, can't they? And actually, you learning from them as well. So you do get with anything creative, there's there's a bit of an arrogance about it. So, well, this person's not going to be able to do it as well as me. Where actually, why don't we employ people that are going to in the future be better than what we are?
Yeah, that's the one.
And then we can all push forward together. And what that does as well, it lets you sort of work on a completely different level in your business. So it opens up the mind space for you to be leading people, educating people, more marketing, all those kind of things. So there's people in my business, probably, I don't like to think of it as layers and people underneath others, but probably 2 layers down from me that are actually doing my job what it was 10 years ago. And just from allowing people to breathe and grow and grow and grow, it's allowed me now the time and space to be building the business as more of a brand in the industry and all that sort of stuff. Without that, I wouldn't be able to be doing those things. I'd still be just behind the chair.
It just shows that your role has changed, like your job role has changed. And actually, I certainly find it with what we're doing here is that like there's a huge buzz and excitement about trying to grow something that's bigger than just your core job, which is a hairdresser, and us as photographers. It's about we're trying to build something that's bigger than that, and I'm loving that process. And obviously you're obviously further down the line in your process with your salon, and you've obviously got to a point where you've realised that if you can step back and start to manage those people, that you get just a different kick and a different buzz out of it, don't you?
I was recommended a book recently called The Second Mountain. I haven't bought it yet, so this is a bit of a rubbish story. but the whole premise of it is that the first mountain is your ego. So that's and most people don't get past that first mountain. So their career is all about their ego. The second mountain is about everybody else's ego, and actually that's where the greatest fulfillment comes in, and quite often the greatest success as well. And I thought that sort of put it into a concise thing. I need to get the book. But let's get for that second mountain.
It's the first time someone's quoted about a book that they've never read before. I love that.
I think this is the perfect sort of place to ask about Ruthie and Wilfred. Tell us more.
We've been talking for like an hour.
Tell us more.
So start with Ruthie. Let's start with Ruthie. So as I said, when I got into hairdressing, I thought I could meet women. And on the first day I met Ruthie.
Done.
So Ruthie is, and then it took us about 6 years to actually get together. So a lot of graft went in. But Ruthie is the most intelligent, obviously beautiful, but charismatic person I've met. I suppose that she's the person that sort of I look up to the most. Like if I can be anything like her, I know I'm going to be doing all right. And she was a vice principal at a school, and 2.5 years left and set up her own business. So she's in marketing now, in social media marketing. So she's my absolute rock, and I think we all need that, though. If you've got your own business, you need someone that you can go to.
Hold on, so she's got her own business and she's in social media marketing. Is she? Right, what's her? We need to put on the list.
First person narrative. First person narrative. Check her out. And she's just amazing to watch. And she left a very well paid job. Again, it was at the start of COVID, and my salon suddenly closed, and she didn't even have a client yet. She started it in the January, was doing some learning and some education, and then COVID hit. It's like, right, so my salon's closed and you've got no money coming in, what we're going to do here? But she just there's no way she wasn't going to succeed at it. Like I say, she's so intelligent, so bright, but charismatic with it. So when it comes to marketing herself, she's brilliant. yeah, so like I say, absolute rock, best friend, and lucky to have her as my wife. Somehow I managed to all the graft paid off. Yeah. I grew a beard, actually, that's what happened. Yeah, and then little Wilf. So I was speaking to Sam just off camera, where it's just the best thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like it, I felt like I had a really good, fulfilled life that. I didn't need much more in there. I was having a good time.
Yeah.
Wilf's come along, and someone said to me that when you have a kid, you think you felt every emotion, and then all of a sudden that emotion you feel 10 times, 100 times stronger. Yeah. And he does it every day.
It just grows, doesn't it? I was chatting to somebody the other day about this, about how like the first. I still look back on it now and remember the first sort of few months have been quite underwhelming, because people tell this to you that it is amazing, and you do feel all this, but sometimes it just takes a little while just to kick in, doesn't it? And then once it does, it's kind of like just an upward trend.
And again, it sounds weird, but he also inspires me. It's kind of like this raw little human, and as we're saying with rock music and stuff, just like him being just completely 100% authentically him, and somehow we lose that as time goes on. Like I have this thing that I say, like, be more Wilf, and I want to be more Wilf. Like it's just class. It's just class. And again, he just brings so much joy to our life. He's such a golden lad. So I'm I am very lucky. That side of my life as well is brilliant. But I think you do find a lot of successful people have that, and we also have a circle of friends, Dan Dolan being one of them, and Hannah obviously, and Hannah and Ruthie were best friends through school, and everyone's successful in their own right, strong people in their own right, all push each other, and honestly, if I hadn't have met that group of friends through Ruthie, I don't think I'd be doing what I am doing now. They say you become the average of the 5 people around you. I'm lucky I've got those people around me. They're amazing people.
Well, one thing Dan said to me, I'm sorry if this I don't know if this is going to come across well, but when Dan spoke to me a few months ago, just after his episode had come out, he said that Tony phoned me up and he was in tears. He said he was crying because he was so proud of what I'd done, that I'd gone on this podcast. Well, and it just made me go, that's an amazing thing. Like, a lot of people might go, what, you cried over that? But I'm like, it just shows a lot of empathy towards your friends. And like that.
Another little story is I played that episode to my wife yesterday. We were in the car for an hour and she hadn't listened to it yet. I cried again 3 times. But I mean, again, it's what you guys, it goes back to that, you want to evoke an emotion, and this is another creative outlay for you. And the way you're doing it is evoking an emotion. It's not just people talking, it's proper stories, and to be honest, there's that first bit where Dan listed his jobs. It gets me a
standout moment for me.
So I'm lucky, Dan being one of them, and that as a circle of friends, they're brilliant, and we all push each other. And like I say, if I hadn't have met them through Ruthie, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
I think it's just great that you obviously have a very good mindset and approach to a lot of things that I'm sure you are aware of it. But if you're not, you come across as someone who's very empathetic, very understanding, but very passionate. And one thing that stood out just before we were talking about Dan then was that your awareness and your ability to realise that you're always learning. And I suppose you kind of talk about that first mountain and second mountain thing. It's like, well, if you just get into whatever you do, and we all go through that learning curve, don't we, of just figuring stuff out, and then that's it. A lot of people tend to stop at that point. Whereas I think the people that are successful and that grow and do really well are the ones that go, okay, I've learned that, what can I now go and learn again? What can I learn again? What can I learn again? And you're obviously taking that from your friends, from your social groups, from your staff that come and work for you.
Well, I think I approach every, maybe it's a not believing
and your
in
lads
myself.
as well, like it's from every source.
But I do think, I think I go into everything thinking that they're probably better than me. I don't know why that is, but I do think you can learn from everyone, and even my clients. Again, I'm lucky now. With my client base, a lot of them have their own businesses of all different types. And I almost get this free advice for an hour or two every 6 weeks off all of them, and some of the conversations really do hit home, and again, especially because they're all from different industries, right? So what can I pull from what they do and put it into what I do? I rarely look at my own industry, to be honest. I look at other industries for lots of different inspirations. Whether that's the structure of the business, the client journey, the experience, and what can we implement from what they're telling me or what I've got.
We've talked about that countless times, haven't we? And that's exactly why this podcast was born, and exactly why we didn't want it to just be wedding photographers, because we believe in being able to take ideas and inspiration from anybody in any industry. And I think there'll be a lot of takeaways for a lot of people today in your approach to business and what you've achieved. I don't know. What other questions did you have? I've still got loads of questions I can go through.
I've got quite a few.
I do have to take Betsy to gymnastics in 5 minutes. Though, just to let you know.
There's so much. Even as
5 minutes
as you were speaking, Tony, I
will be back.
This is good. We're gonna have him back. We're gonna have him back because I'm thinking I really want to hit up some aspects of business as well, because you're really strong at it and it comes across. The fact that you just set structures and everything else within what you're doing and everything else, I'm just thinking, and how can we sort of translate that to our industry and implement it? And okay, that question, for example, about the
which one?
The chairs. How many chairs do you have for within?
Oh right, yeah.
For example, that. So you go for that one, for example, because you got it more in your head. I like to think, but no.
What about chairs? What are you on about? We're not coming across as very professional podcast hosts here.
We're not.
The amount of chairs in the salon.
Should we start again?
Yes, let's start again. Just the whole idea of knowing your numbers and knowing how many chairs you need to literally have within the salon in order to make it profitable and make it run quite smoothly. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was around the margins and calculating how you attribute a cost to a member of staff.
So, first of all, we're talking about learning from people. So I'm lucky. My father-in-law is a business consultant and worked in engineering. So totally different. And he's my business coach.
So we're going to bring the whole family in.
Yeah.
Let's get them all in. Yeah.
Come around. We can have a Sunday dinner. Bring the microphones. And he. So when I was setting up the business, I'd take my business plan to him, and quite often would just absolutely tear strips off it. And just questions like, how much do you need to earn per square foot? Well, we don't work in square foot. We work in chairs. So no, you don't, because you don't pay your rent on chairs, do you? You pay your rent on your square foot. I just think sort of coming at a completely different angle.
Yeah.
And again, without him, I probably would have gone bumped 3 times over in the first few years. So I'm lucky to have people like that around me to make me think of it in a different way. And again, that in turn makes me be able to put the structure in place. I think my industry is quite easy to understand the numbers. Well, maybe it's not, but really you're working on sort of like a third. So a lot of people don't. So your wage bill is always going to be the highest thing. Our wage bill, for 20 people, as you can imagine, is huge. And it suddenly hits you sometimes. I'm paying all these mortgages and rents and all the rest of it. Well, they are, but I'm making sure they're in an environment where they can do that. So you need to get your wage bill. Like in our industry, it's around 40%. So as soon as if you're not bringing in the turnover to make sure that that your wages are only 40%, you need to do something about it. So whether that's you need more clients, you need to put your prices up, or unfortunately sometimes you need to let people go. And then that's what needs to happen. So there's not a one size fits all as a thing. So if your rent is really low, obviously your percentages can move about. If your rent's sky high, the percentages need to move about. So it's getting to the crux of it. I mean, I do work with some other salon owners and business owners. So it's looking at what they bring in really and what's going out, and then figuring out what the percentages should be. But as a sort of a bit of a rule, above 40% with your wages is too high.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think one thing that I noticed when I was reading some of your stuff on Instagram was about like the margins are like 3 to 6% profit.
Yep.
Which is like, wow, that's a tight margin.
Yeah, and the average salon owner actually per hour is less than minimum wage. They don't pay themselves. So I mean, our industry, again, maybe it is a creative thing again, but they just don't charge enough. They don't charge enough for what they're doing. And the problem you've got is a lot of them just look at their competitors and what they're charging, and then think to themselves, well, I'm not as good as that one, but I'm better than that one, so I'm going to sit it somewhere in the middle, without looking at what their outgoings are. So, you know, what is your rent? And you know, for instance, in our salon, it's complimentary drinks all the way through. So coffee machine that costs us a fortune, the coffee costs a fortune.
Yeah, and it all needs to be factored in.
Free Coke, Diet Coke, lemonade.
It just goes to show that you can be as creative as you want, but if you don't have the foundations for running a business and like knowing your numbers.
Well, I've seen plenty of businesses who do so many clients, but they're almost losing money every time they do a client, especially if they're doing
because they're literally not charging enough.
And then you've got the fact that, you know, some won't be VAT registered, so straight away they can charge 20% less and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, you really need to know your numbers. I think the crux of it is, as soon as you go from being in my job a hairdresser to being a business owner, your job is a business owner. So no longer do you have to be the best hairdresser in there. No longer do you need to be the most creative, flamboyant, whatever you want to call it. What you need to do is know your numbers, and as soon as you employ people, you need to know how to lead those people. And
that allows them to be creative, because the moment they start to worry about the numbers, and the moment you start to worry about numbers, you aren't able to be creative because you're so consumed.
And you see that as well.
And that strips it out.
So you either need to do that, or you need to employ someone to do those things that allows you to still do the day job, if you like, of doing the creative bit.
I've just got to run Betsy to gymnastics, so let's pause at that.
It's a break,
and then we'll just come back in a minute.
I love it.
Studio Ninja, Igor.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm off again. But I just wanted to talk about one more thing, because I think, and I'm not here to criticise one of our sponsors, but I think they're missing a trick.
Ooh, shots fired. Tell us what you think.
It claims to be designed by photographers for photographers, which it is. It is designed by photographers for photographers. So I'm not arguing that. But it's not just for photographers.
That's it. So much
I just
more.
think it's for anybody that's in a service-based industry. This piece of software is invaluable. I've had friends that are MUAs, hairstylists, florists, stylists. You know, you name it. I've had them all reach out, and I've given them sort of guidance and setting them up that have gone on to use Studio Ninja and like, this is invaluable for our business.
Yeah.
So if Studio Ninja are listening and watching this back, might want to think about who you're targeting it to, because actually I think they're missing a trick. I think there's a whole market out there that, you know, you don't just need to be a photographer or a videographer in the wedding industry. If you are a service-based industry and you've got clients or couples, whoever they may be, and you need to book people in, you need to send them automated emails, invoices, you know, the system and the software is there for anybody to use in whichever business they're operating in.
Yeah, get Studio Ninja.
There you go. So what's the discount code, Igor? You should know it by now, because I've told you a few times.
Let me see. I
wonder what it could be.
I'm guessing. I'm joking. It's another idea. It's that simple. So if you go to Studio Ninja, type in that at the checkout, and you'll get 50% off for the whole year, and you'll get the first month free.
You get the first month free, and then another idea gets 50% off their first annual subscription.
There we go.
There you go. Sorted.
Go get it.
That's the one thing they don't tell you when you have kids, is it? You have to like balance the summer school holidays around
quick gymnastic run.
So I've had to run her down the road. She's got 4 hours at gym, and then she does a gym session tonight as well. So she's gone for
that's
9 hours now. But yeah, so apologies about that. People will be listening going, what's going on? I just had to run her to the gym. So quick little water break for you guys though.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
Well, we were chatting about all sorts of things.
You've ordered pizza, yeah?
I've ordered pizza.
Good man.
The good old Domino's tracker is
Wonderful. Telling
me that we are on prep at the moment.
Yeah,
amazing. We got.
Let's get going quick.
Yeah. Let's get going,
guys. I didn't know what question I was going to ask, but I feel like I want to ask Tony for some selfish business advice. What else is here?
No, that's good.
We haven't had this yet. We haven't had somebody look at what we're doing here from the outside and give us their... everyone's obviously been quite, kind and nice towards it. But, let's... From a business point of view, we've both talked about it before in previous episodes that we're at a stage now, or very soon, where it's going to need to generate some kind of sales, because we can't just keep doing it for shits and giggles, can we?
Yeah.
So how do you see what we're doing, Tony, as a business? I mean, obviously at the moment it's just a kind of something that was born out of an idea and a passion for kind of wanting to have conversations with people and to educate us. I suppose it's like, for us, it's like our education in a way.
Yeah. First of all, what you're doing is brilliant. I know we've spoke about it a bit before we started, but your approach to it is great and refreshing, to be honest, as well. That there's not been much ego involved with I mean, not with you guys, obviously you're beautiful men, but with your guests as well.
Thank you.
You've had people come in who want to share their stories and help other people, which is great. Not just showing off, basically. And that will be from your questions as well, obviously. But it's scaling it up, isn't it? So like what we've been touching on already, is as it scales up, what's your job going to become? So you've got your bread and butter, which is your wedding photography, but you can see this has got legs to do whatever you want to do with it, really, and it's how big you want to take that. But then something has to give elsewhere in the business, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So I always think what the approach should be is the thing that has to give. The first thing you do is just charge more and more and more for it, and there'll come a point where people are like, actually I can't afford that, but you can afford to lose a certain percentage of customers as long as you're charging more. So there's that balance there, and in order to charge more, you've obviously got to be great at it, which you guys already are as well. And then it'll be employing people, won't it? So I must admit, I was kind of a bit obsessed when I first started with employing more staff.
That kind of goes against the grain, doesn't it, for a lot of creatives? I think a lot of people are of the opposite mindset of, I'm terrified. I don't trust anybody to do what I do.
It was kind of like when it was kind of like if anyone ever came to me and said, I have house business, the first thing I'd say is, I've got this many staff now. I've got a client.
Where does that come from?
I think it's because I do love seeing other people be able to achieve great things.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and even at school, I wasn't a fighter whatsoever. Sort of late primary school, early secondary school, you have a few scuffles on the playground and things. I think I only had 3 in my life, but each time it was because I saw someone else getting a bit roughed up or something.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily mates with them or anything, but it was almost like I wanted to stick up for that underdog a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bit of that involved. I think it's I like a sob story. I like when I'm interviewing. So the questions I get, I ask them in the interview. I want to get into their soul a little bit and see what makes them tick. And if someone gives me a bit of a sob story, or I can see they're a family person or whatever, it's like, right, you got a job, let's go on this journey together, let's get you somewhere. So maybe it's a bit of that. And I just thought it was quite a stamp of, well, he must be doing well because he's employing this many people. But through that learning process, now, like, actually that shouldn't be the thing. Like, it should be, I've got a client who's got his own business, and his main obsession is his margin. So he's got a 30% margin in his business. He's a web developer, really intelligent guy, and basically he knows he's got new customers coming in. And what a lot of people do is just really concentrate on new customers. Let's get as many in as possible, but charge the same. Or actually get better and better and better at what you do. Make sure your margin is at least the same or better. So each time I employ someone, if they haven't got a client base, my margin drops. So I need to get it back up, because my wage bill's gone up, and we haven't all of a sudden got loads of new clients on that first day. So it's my job to get that margin back up through getting them busy or through putting up price or whatever it is. So that's become my new obsession. And again, because the margins are so bad in my industry, and with cost of living, and you can imagine what our electric bill is at the moment with 20 hair dryers going and all the rest of it. So it's employing people, but for a reason, and that reason should be that they can do something better than you. So as an example, day one I had an accountant, day one I had someone in charge of my HR. Those two things they can do better than me, and it can cost you a lot of money in the long term. So there was a reason for that cost, and it allows you to spend the time on the thing that you can do best to bring more money in as well. So it's scaling up, but I made the mistake when I knocked into next door doing it too soon. Like again, maybe it's my ego, and I knocked into next door. Everything was going really well. We'd grown into that space. Really, what I needed was another 2 years of sustaining what we had. Knocked into next door, rent doubled, all the rest of it. Needed to fill the space. Obviously, you're not just going to get all of a sudden clients flooding through the door just because you got a bigger space. And we had one stylist leave, and then in that first year, 2 go on maternity. And and at that point, we had a team of 8, I think. So it was a big chunk of. So we had to rush
your overheads
employment.
Gone up.
And
staff levels have come down.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. We moved house around that time as well, and I collapsed at home. Still don't know why, but they say it's probably just stress, And that was a big learning curve for me of actually I'm trying to do this too quick, and don't do it, especially nowadays with the Instagram world. I think don't do it so that you look like you're being successful on Instagram. Again, so the rest of the world was like, oh, he must be doing well.
Really good advice.
Look how big the salon is and all the rest of it. Meanwhile, I was drowning, and I was having to grow too quickly and making mistakes because of that. So now I always go back to, whenever there's an opportunity coming up, I go back to that feeling of actually, is everything else in place for me to allow me to grow to that next step? I've got another client who's a life coach, and she says, think of your life as a tripod. You got your work life, you got financial, and then you got your health. And basically you can only afford to have one of those things up in the air at once. More than one and everything collapses, which I think is probably what happened to me. I had too many things up in the air. I was risking too much, and all of a sudden health, I was on my arse and didn't know why. And we grew through it, like we were fine. But that first year or two was like, oh right, okay, now this is almost like a serious business now. The amount of money we need to make to just cover our overheads. So it's, I'd say, scale it up, get good people around you, but as you're scaling up, think about what you're charging for your other services, so that it allows you to do it.
God, there's a lot to unpick there, isn't there? That's brilliant. I mean, where do you want to start with that?
No, I liked. It made me smile a little bit about the whole point of getting someone in to do something and do it better than you, really, because in some ways,
we fist bumping. What we're fist bumping for?
Merla is definitely doing that, and she's incredible. We love her for it, really. And next episode you'll see her properly, because we'll get her in and sit down and pick her brain a little bit. I
think we've got an episode queued up where we're just going to open up everything about why we're doing this and what our plans are for the business. So that's kind of why I wanted to ask that question. It's just nice just to get somebody else's opinion from the outside as to where we can take it next. That might be the dominoes.
And your all of the. Can I smell pizza?
You can smell pizza.
It's also.
Quick, hurry up.
Your
meat point.
Your audience is changing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you've gone from just speaking to potential couples who want to use you to photograph their wedding, to other photographers, other creatives, and it's going like that, isn't it? And all of a sudden who you're communicating to is different. You see a lot in our industry where on their their salon Instagram, for instance, that should really just be client centric, to bring clients in. They're speaking to other hairdressers and almost like showing off their work to other hairdressers, and that language is different. So that's the other thing to think about, I suppose, is that, how do you grow those audiences without isolating the other audience that is, again, your bread and butter.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've been thinking about recently, is the volume of this kind of content that goes through my wedding photography business.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of touch on what Tony just said there, is that do my wedding couples or clients engage with that kind of content when it's not really geared towards them? I mean,
Yeah.
all I can go off is going to weddings and couples saying to me, I love what you're doing with your education.
Yeah.
A lot of them do love it. They enjoy seeing it.
They do.
Well, it adds value to what you're doing. It gives you extra.
I think it will alienate some of them. I think some people will go, I just want to get some wedding photos. I'm not bothered about what he's doing behind the scenes in his other businesses. But yeah, it's definitely food for thought.
Yeah, but the ones that really gravitate towards you will really gravitate towards you because
Well, I think
really get what you're doing.
I'm trying to appeal to my clients, our creatives at heart anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not just after wedding couples. I'm after wedding couples that are passionate about creativity and being creative. And I think they kind of they embrace that and they recognise it. So I think they go kind of hand in hand. But it's definitely something that's got me thinking. What pizza did you order?
It's gone big.
It's gone big, has it?
So is it on your card?
Stuffed crust.
It's on your card.
It's on my card.
No, it's not mine. Veggie Supreme, of course.
Good man.
Mighty Meaty, and Pepperoni Passion or something like that. So yeah, something for everybody.
I've got my final question for Tony before you start to wrap things up. Just whilst we're on the subject of other businesses, and obviously like you've moved into business coaching a lot more over the last few years. I'm reading. So one thing that I want to ask you is what do you see as the kind of common mistakes that businesses are making that you coach at the moment? And I just want to touch on that point again that we made earlier about how the help that you've given some businesses has made them kind of enjoy that creativity again. Obviously, when a business is struggling and they're up against it, that creativity kind of gets strangled out of them, doesn't it? And what have been the mistakes that have led up to that, and how have you helped them kind of navigate that process?
I think I have two different types of people who approach me. So the first type is normally people sort of our age who started their business quite young, and it's done really well, almost too well, because they can't it's sort of run away from them, and they've got no control over things, and they don't actually know the ins and outs of their business and who does what, and they're uber successful, but there'll be something that's running away. So whether that's the financials and the wage bill's too high, for instance, or even just that they don't enjoy their job. They're kind of they're not drowning in terms of how well the business is doing, but as a person, they're like, actually, I'm like this headless chicken, and I'm generally speaking, you've started a family and stuff at our age, so not spending time with the kids, all these things, and it actually just putting a few things in place means that they can enjoy it again, and actually probably get even more growth from that, because at the moment they haven't got space to think.
Yeah.
Then the other type are people who are really struggling with the business. So that could be if they do employ people, it's the leadership side and those things we touched on earlier on what people want from their employment. A really good wage structure, and just really getting to the crux of it, like getting a bit deeper into their business, like a bit like what happened with me when I knocked into next door, where we were doing really, really well, but it's because the overheads were small. That's why we're doing really well. And then all of a sudden everything expands out and you've got to keep up. And it's normally people at that sort of stage that approach me, and they went into it a bit naively. And I suppose because I've gone through it, I can look for the things that are going to help them. I'd say most of the time it is the figure side that people are struggling with. And again, they're apologetic about charging what they should charge. They just haven't properly looked at what a certain service is costing them. So they will be doing, there could be a certain colour service they're doing that is actually, they're losing money every single time they're doing it because they're not charging enough for the product they're using and that kind of thing. being held to ransom by staff, especially at the moment. You got people getting paid a lot of money and they're just not going to bring in what they need to be bringing in. So, but again, that comes down to structures and have a real wage structure in place. I'm a big football fan, so quite often I do bring things back to football, and there's the biggest clubs in the world will say no to a player. They'll say actually that's not in our wage structure, and they're still successful the next season. But they're also making sure they're not going bump, and they're also making sure that the rest of the team don't think they can get paid that much money and all the rest of it, because that money's simply not there for that club. So it's structure. It's just having everything. Like I want to get to the point. Franchising will be a thing we do in the future. I want to get to a point where I've just got a Bible and I just pass that over to them. It's like, right.
I thought you had one already.
It is a lot of it is there, but there's other things I need to get into it still. And again, still learning, and again, things are evolving all the time. So, like really, again, the wage structure. So where I'm saying really it should be 40% at the moment. Probably is true that 5-10 years ago it could be 30-35%, but people want more now, and actually they deserve more. So that's moved, so that you've got to be able to pivot all the time.
Yeah, I think it's that was that thing you just said then about it's on right at the tip of my tongue.
Come on, son. Come on,
no,
son.
I literally had it and I lost
Squeeze
it.
it out.
No, it'll come back to me. Go on, Igor. You take the baton.
No, I was going to say that I wanted to go back to Rufy and Wolf really, but it was sort of like when you said the whole collapsing thing and really learning from that. How is it today? How do you guys deal with your lives in general, really? Because Rufy's got an incredible job. She's doing well. She's going and getting her things, and you add a child to that, and then you got your business, which is huge, and everything else. How do you guys juggle everything? Is there sort of like a routine that you guys have at the moment, or?
Yeah, there is. I mean, she'll tell you I'm a big fan of a routine.
I'm sensing. I was going to say structure again. I've got structure for everything. Love it.
I have a whole routine in the morning to make sure I have a 10 out of 10 day. That happens every day. But no, it's. I think first of all, like rewarding yourself. So making sure that throughout the year you've already got your time off booked in. You get a lot of people who've got their own businesses that just head down and before they know it they're in November and they haven't had any time off at all. So making sure that so what I do is especially it's easier now. Wilf's at school as well, so obviously he's working in school holidays and things again. So every half term, every school holiday, I'll at least have a few days off.
Yeah, mark it in the diary.
Yeah, it's in the diary. I'm not working. And don't get me wrong, there'll be things that get thrown in there, and I'll have to do a few emails or whatever. But it's important to have that time. And I think all of us. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about your job. You're working to give your out of work life to make that even better.
Yeah, of course.
I think Mickey Flanagan said, didn't he? But we all work really, really hard just to sit on our arse in a nicer place. So whether that's your house, a holiday, a car, we all want to sit on our arse, but in as nice a place as possible. So there's that, and then it is for me building that team around me at work. I've got a salon manager. She's been with me since day one, who's absolutely brilliant. And yes, you'll probably never get someone who's as passionate as you are about your business, but she is damn close. So I've got her, and then the big thing I've built over the last 2 to 3 years is sort of the layer underneath her. So making sure we've got sort of a leadership team really. So it doesn't matter if someone's off, we've always got sort of one of those in, and you've got someone who is head above the stand, who's in charge, and is the voice kind of thing. And if something isn't going right, we'll put it right. And what that does as well is it not only does it give you time to think and less stress and all the rest of it, it allows you to start thinking about what the next branches are for, so say franchising or another salon or all that sort of stuff, without building something that's solid there and can sort of work without me. You've got nothing really, whether that's that you sell it or that you retire or that you move on to the next thing. If it doesn't work when you're not there, you've got nothing. That's
reminding me of the point that was right on the tip of my tongue, was just about, it was more just recognising that you've you've obviously learned from that lesson of the collapse and that mad time of knocking through the wall too early than you should, which is that you obviously have these other ideas that are building in the background, but you're not kind of rushing into it. You're just accepting that it might take 5 to 10 years to get to that stage. The franchise won't happen in the next year. It might do, but it might also not. And just being aware of your ability to be able to handle all that, but to make sure that the foundations are right before you move on to that next stage.
Yeah, and you've got your own house, but the business as well, haven't you? So it's, you see so often the businesses expand, and the thing that was making them really successful fails because they're not there enough or whatever. So
and we do. I think we all go through kind of life cycles, don't we? There are always like spells where you get a bit more time back. Like having kids when they go to school, that kind of frees up a lot of mental headspace. So you kind of then can move on to the next stage of your life and the next part of your business. And I mean, I'm sure Igor will wrap things up in a second or two, but I've really enjoyed just hearing your story, and I love how we keep coming back to like structure and business setup, and again, it just reinforces the idea that you can be as creative as you want to be, but if you don't have those foundations or that framework in place to be able to allow creativity, it's never going to exist. And that's what I really kind of applaud you for. I think it's brilliant that you've grown your business. It's really inspiring as well for me, just to see that you've built a team of 20 odd people and made a success of it, and I'm excited to see where it kind of goes, and I'm going to listen to Dan Dolan more often.
That could be dangerous.
So,
just echoing that really, and throughout this whole episode, really, the one thing that really has stood out for me, and it wasn't even on the questions, but it really has stood out throughout this conversation, that you genuinely love to empower people, and you're really good at it. It's a superpower. It really, really is. But you are good at it, but you actually love doing it. And so actually see someone as an example of it, and then the results that are coming out from it. And so obviously your staff, and hopefully that will trickle down to everybody else. And I just have this sort of like idea of walking into your salon, and there's a massive buzz, and everybody's just really empowering each other.
I'm just going to go off for a cry.
No, it's
I wonder if we went into his salon, if we go into his office, it's just like a bomb site. There's just shit everywhere. He's actually really disorganised and messy. He's just been painted a picture of a really highly organised, structured guy. No, it's great. And I think we're going to get... Is Ruthie going? Are we going to put Ruthie on the board?
I think we kind of have to.
I think we'll let Tony write Ruthie on the board.
Go for it. Go for it.
Thank you very, very much for giving us your time. It's massively appreciated, and
it really is.
We're going to pay you in pizza. So
where can people find you?
Instagram's probably the best way, and then just go from there. So Anthony_John_Walmsley. So just DM me on there if you've got any questions and things. That'd be great.
And your salons?
Anthony John Salons in Lichfield. So if you want to come and get your barnet chopped as well, then come on in.
Amazing. Seriously, thank you so much. You've been absolutely incredible.
Cheers, Tony.
Cheers, guys.
Boom.